Welcome to the Oscars, and more importantly, welcome to the Gillys in the year of our Lord 2025. We are going to see who I think will win versus who I actually want to win, and we'll do a little representation here. So, for the awards that I think will actually win the Oscar, we will be handing out an Oscar. And then, for the very coveted Gilly, who I think deserves the award, Squirtle will represent the Gilly. We'll work on that for future years. Or maybe we'll keep Squirtle. We'll see. But those are the two awards that we'll be handing out. Let's talk about all the categories. First category on our list is Best Adapted Screenplay. We are going to award the Oscar to Conclave. We're going to award the Gilly to the same. We're going to award a Conclave here. In terms of the ensemble and the score and the cinematography, it all encapsulates itself into a well-rounded, just well-made movie. In terms of what is the best element, you could talk about Ray Fiennes, you could talk about the ensemble cast. There's a lot of good elements in it. To me, what is actually the strongest element of this film is its screenplay, and I do think it deserves this award. For Best Original Screenplay, there's definitely an argument to be made for The Brutalist, or what really seems to kind of be overlooked in some ways is Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain, but I do think the Oscar is going to go to Sean Baker for Anora, and I'm also going to give the Gilly to Sean Baker for Anora as well. This is a bit of a tough one for me because I fully believe Sean Baker deserves something. He wrote it, he directed it, he edited the movie, heck, he even cast the movie as well. So with all of that, I think it's going to be a snub if he doesn't win something, and I do think Anora might be winning a lot of awards here, and I think screenplay might just be one of them. I don't think it's actually really the one that Sean Baker necessarily needs to win of the different ones that he's nominated for, but I'm still going to give this one to him. I put my Squirtle, my Gilly down for the next 4 categories. I did not make it to any of the documentaries or the live actions or the animated short films that made it on the list. I enjoyed watching the animated short films last year, so that was a fun element to do. Just didn't get around to it, so I'm truly just going off of kind of the predictions here of what I'm expecting. Might even throw a little toss-up in here. For Best Documentary Feature, we are awarding Porcelain War. It feels like its timely message is what's going to propel it to a victory here. For Documentary Short, we're going to go with Incident. Don't ask me more than that. For Live Action Short, I feel relatively confident. Anuha, not sure how to pronounce that to be honest with you, but that's getting the Oscar. Where I might be going with a bit more of an underdog and one that I would genuinely like to see, for the animated short film we are going with In the Shadow of the Cypress. And where I do have thoughts is for Best Animated Feature Film. It was a bit of a wild ride of this year where Pixar finally kind of returned to form and said, oh, we're a legit Oscar contender again with Inside Out 2, which was them returning to actually great movies. And then The Wild Robot came out and, to me, became the clear front runner. However, what has really been making strides is a movie that, to be honest with you, I haven't quite seen yet. I fully intend to watch it before the Oscars actually happen, but I am awarding the Oscar to Flow. It's a little indie studio. There's no dialogue. It's like a lost cat. It sounds adorable. I'm hearing very good things. So the Oscar goes to Flow. Maybe I would really enjoy this movie. I'm sure I would. But in terms of what I saw, the Gilly has to go to The Wild Robot. It is another great movie. It is well-deserving. Maybe Flow kind of takes it over. Seems like animated films have been leaning more towards not looking to the big studios as much in recent years. It'll be an interesting one to see. For International Feature, we are going to give the Oscar to Emilia Perez, and I'm definitely not giving my Gilly to that movie. I didn't like the movie. It's not a good movie, genuinely. And it's actually one that is losing steam with just a lot of other controversies and stuff that you can kind of look into yourself. I actually still think that with how much it won awards previously and when the voters kind of were able to cast their votes, I do still think Emilia Perez might get the Oscar here. What is gaining a lot of headway is my pick, which is the Brazilian film I'm Still Here. Gladly giving that the Gilly. I'll talk about it more later. For best cinematography, there's talks of Dune being in the category for this one. Where I struggle with that is when I watch Dune, not fully being able to embrace how much is the cinematography, it is great, versus maybe the visuals of it that I think are really standing out. So it's in the conversations, but with the focus of architecture, I do think the Oscar here is going to go to The Brutalist. But that is not where my award goes to. One of my favorite films of the year, again, I don't actually give cinematography necessarily as like the strongest element here. I do think it is a huge factor in what it delivered. I thought this was his best of the 4 films that he has done. Nosferatu is a beautiful horror movie, and I fully give it the Gilly. For costume design, this is one that Nosferatu has a real shot at as well, but I think the Oscar has to go to Wicked here. And actually, in the same mindset of there's other elements that I really appreciate about Nosferatu, I'm actually going to go ahead and give the Gilly to Wicked as well. Really, really strong case for this film. For best editing, this one feels like a toss-up to me. I am going to give the Oscar to Sean Baker for Anora, and Sean Baker also gets the Gilly here. I think, thinking it through, the editing is my favorite part of Anora, where there's so much directing that Sean Baker did with the physical comedy elements, but where the timing happens really was from the editing. And then you also think about the pacing and the frenetic pace and then the quiet moments, and that to me was the real strength of the movie, and that foundation is in Baker's editing. That to me I think is the best element, and that's why I want to give the award in both cases to Sean Baker for this category. For best makeup and hair, I did not see this movie, but I'm thinking The Substance might pull out a win here and it's going to get the Oscar. But this is going to be a category where I'm going to award the Gilly to Nosferatu. I think it did a tremendous job, and I would happily award this movie with this award. To start stirring up a little controversy of my own, for best score, I'm going to give the Oscar here actually to Conclave. And then for the Gilly, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give it to Dune Part 2. It's not nominated. It was ineligible because it used a lot of its Oscar-winning score from the first Dune movie. But when you look at some of the tracks, like A Quiet Between the Storms, that is a track that actually regularly makes it into my playlist, and I think really was one that stood out to me. And in terms of that lasting impact, Dune Part 2, Hans Zimmer, is my clear favorite here. This might be one of the categories where The Brutalist sees some love, and very well you might see it for the Oscar here. But if I had to give a Gilly to an actual nominee, I think the way Conclave interwove the score to its whole setting worked well, and I'll give it to Conclave. I did listen to all of the best original song nominees, and the Oscar here, I think clear frontrunner is El Mal from Emilia Perez. There are a lot of critiques that I have about this movie, a lot of critiques. And some of those critiques extend to the songs in this musical. But with that being said, in terms of the better songs, El Mal actually is one of the better songs in the movie. So I'm not actually like too upset if it wins the Oscar, and I do think it will. And in terms of what I listened to, in terms of what I would award, if there was one of the popular Wicked songs even popular, I'd probably vote for that, to be honest. I'm not actually sure if it was ineligible for some reasons, didn't really look into that. But I'm going to go ahead and give Like a Bird the Gilly. It was a good song. For production design, I think this is the one that might be the best chance Wicked has at winning. And I am going to give Wicked the Oscar for production design. I'm going to give the Gilly, I don't know if you're going to be surprised at this point, I'm going to give the Gilly to Nosferatu. I think the production design is fantastic in that movie. With that said, the production design, there's a lot of high quality elements in Wicked, and I would not be upset with a win in Wicked there, as long as Nosferatu comes away with something. For best sound, it's now a combined category here. I don't really have too many opinions on this one, so we're going to give the Oscar to A Complete Unknown. To give it an award. And then the Gilly, I guess I'm giving to Dune Part 2. There you have it. For best visual effects, I think I'm going with an underdog here. Because to me, the front runner is going to be Dune Part 2. And I went with what I think should have won last year and was the front runner last year and was wrong. So I'm actually going to change that, and I'm going to say that the Academy agrees with me on the pick. So the Oscar is going to go to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and the Gilly goes to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as well. The visual effects in Dune Part 2 are fantastic, but in terms of the technical qualities that you will find in visual effects, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is some of the best visuals you will ever see. And it makes it for a very well-rounded movie. In fact, you can find it from my 5 favorite films of 2024 list. They did a phenomenal job, and if it campaigns hard enough, I think it might actually come away with the award, and it is very deserving of it. For Best Director, I have to believe that the Oscar is going to go to Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. It's a sprawling epic. It has many themes that I think the Academy looks for in many, many ways. It's going to receive the Oscar. The movie just didn't quite strike that chord with me like it did with some of my friends that watched that movie with me. So I can't award it on my end. And so what I am going to award is Sean Baker for Anora. I think this could be a very big night for Anora. I'm not going to say that this is the category that Sean Baker should win of any and all of them, but I think he has a very strong case here, and he could very well come away with the Oscar. I'm going to lean towards The Brutalist on this one, but the Gilly will go to Sean Baker. As we move over to Best Supporting Actress, the Oscar here is going to Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. And you know what? Zoe Saldana is actually going to get the Gilly as well. One of the critiques I don't really have of the film is Zoe Saldana's performance. She is really an integral part of the movie. And in terms of what I know about the other contenders and what I've seen from the other contenders in this category, even though their performances are really good, I don't find them as pivotal to the story as Zoe Saldana. And I think that's what really leans both for the Oscar side and the Gilly side of things for Zoe Saldana. For Best Supporting Actor, Guy Pearce is going to be the strongest case to come away with the upset. I don't think that's going to happen. Kieran Culkin is going to win the Oscar for A Real Pain, and Kieran Culkin also gets the Gilly Award as well. And really the same exact case is what I'll say from the Best Supporting Actress, to say that the most important part of A Real Pain is Kieran Culkin, and really for that reason and what he delivers, it's a well-deserved win and nomination. Best Actress, to me, is going to be one of the most interesting categories to watch out for. You have Mikey Madison for Anora, and it seems like she's starting to get a lot of love in that case. And honestly, Carla Sofia Gascon's performance is one of the better elements of Amelia Perez, although I believe she's losing a lot of steam in that regard. And I'm going to follow up with the Golden Globes here and say that the Oscar is going to go to Demi Moore for The Substance. Someone else that is actually also making waves in with the Golden Globe is who I am awarding the Gilly, and that is Fernando Torres for I'm Still Here. It's this story of a family in Brazil in 1970s, 1980s, and there's a backdrop of a government takeover, and it's the story of how a mother shields her family from some of the dark elements that are going on. So you get this family lifestyle, you see all this love, you see all this care, you see the tender embrace of a mother, but you also see the inklings of the struggles that she also has to go through, but the strength that she has to pursue and the love that overflows. And it's very subtle, and it is subtle in the absolute best way. It is a moving performance. It hit that chord with me, and I would love to see Fernando Torres get the award here. On the flip side, Best Actor, pretty underwhelming in my opinion. I've only seen 2 of the nominees here, so I don't have too much of a basis to go off of. You can make some cases for some of the actors here. I do think Adrien Brody is going to come away with Best Actor for The Brutalist. I actually had some issues, particularly in the first half of the film, really more so about the first 20 minutes. I thought he was overacting, but then he actually brought in a lot of great subtleties later on in the film. But I just have a couple of issues with the film overall. And so I don't feel too great about this, but I'm going to award Ray Fiennes from Conclave with the Gilly. It's a very strong ensemble cast, and Ray Fiennes really holds it down well with some of his best work that he's done. So, kind of a weak category if I'm being honest, but I'm going to give it to Ray Fiennes. And now, with that being said, we come to Best Picture. And I'll kind of preface this by saying that I did think overall that this was a weaker year of films, and there isn't actually as much of a front runner. You know, there was some initial steam with Emilia Perez, but it really seems like that's dropped off, and there might only be a couple of wins in there, if any, for Emilia Perez. So what it really starts to come down to is, I believe this is a race between Anora and The Brutalist. And to me, the signs point towards The Brutalist for winning this category because of just what the Academy looks for overall. But I have voted that way in the past with my very official vote, by the way. I've looked at it that way, but in my heart of hearts, I've also been wrong because I'm like, well, I'm voting this way, but I've seen both of the movies, and objectively speaking, I think there's a better movie out there. So that being said, to me, of The Brutalist and Anora, which to me are the two ones to really look at here, I'm actually going to give the Oscar to Anora. I think it is objectively better than The Brutalist, and I think the Academy will see it my way as well and will award Anora the big award overall. Sean Baker, Mikey Madison, a tremendous job. In terms of personal recommendations, there's a lot of tough elements with Anora. To be honest, I mean, that's kind of Best Picture nominees overall. There's a lot of tough, deep, dark elements for these categories in general anyways. And that still runs through with the Gilly pick that I have. But in terms of the film that surprised me with how much it struck me, the Gilly for Best Picture, Oscars 2025, goes to I'm Still Aquí. I'm Still Here. That movie actually left a lasting impact. I still think about it. It did subtleties to the absolute best. And even though there are certainly some dark elements of kidnapping and hostage government takeovers as the backdrop, really what surprised me the most was how much this film actually reminded me of The Godfather in many ways, where it's just the family elements and it's the family dynamics that builds everything up, and that is what centers the performance, and they just nail that element to a T. So I'm Still Here gets the Gilly, and it's just a good, strong personal recommendation. Be aware there are some tough elements to it, but if you're looking for a solid watch, I can gladly recommend this Brazilian film. It's in Portuguese, so you'll have subtitles. Watch it that way. Watch I'm Still Here. It's a good movie. With that, thank you for coming to the Oscars / the Gillies. Hope you had a good time. Feel free to let me know if you disagree with those picks. I had a couple of purposeful upsets going on there. Looking forward to seeing how we do with everything, and maybe we'll analyze post-Oscars what actually wins and where we ended up at. Until then, I'll see you guys at the next one.